Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Whitman Middle School Building Committee, date of March 25th, 2025. If everybody would join me, please, in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Do we have any public comment? I don't see any. Okay. So we need meeting minutes approval. 2/13.
Motion to accept, one addition needs to be made. So maybe if we handle that beforehand. On the minutes, whatever AI takes it or whatever, they didn't put down who motioned to adjourn. They only put me down as second. Steve Boy, so I don't know.
So this is the meeting from the 13th?
Yes.
All right, we can follow back and make sure we... Brandon made the motion? Okay.
Okay. All right.
So motion to accept with that.
With a change.
Yeah, with that change.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, second by Kathleen. Okay, any other changes? Okay, all in favor? Okay, it's unanimous.
Unanimous, all right.
And for 225,
Motion to accept the minutes as presented.
Second.
Steve Boyce.
any questions, changes, omissions? Okay, all in favor? Okay, unanimous again. Okay, Mike, it's up to you.
All right, introduction of our general contractor. I'd like to welcome up to the mic tonight Joel, who is the project executive for Fontaine Brothers.
Yes.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm Joel Kent, project executive with Fontaine Brothers. Very excited to be here with you tonight and excited for this project. You've done a great job picking a team so far with AI3 and Colliers. We've done a lot of schools with both of them, and they're some of the best, and we're happy to be kind of the final piece of the puzzle for getting the building built. So just kind of thought it'd be good high level to give you an idea where we are with getting started out there. So there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff, planning, contracts, subcontracts, signing up, everyone's going to be a part of the job right now. But we're probably within the next 2 weeks going to be actually starting activity on the site. So that'll be fencing going up and erosion controls around the site, silt fence. And soon after that, hopefully in early April, we'll actually begin to start excavating. And we're aiming to get foundations started sometime in June. And hopefully you'll start seeing the real progress. You'll see the steel start going up in August. That's the aim right now. So it'll start to look like something pretty soon. You'll see equipment start to arrive out there. And we'll work with Mike and his team to make sure that everything gets communicated to the school ahead of time. And everybody knows what's happening. But yeah, we have a great team lined up for it, and it'll be a good project for us and for the town. So thank you all for having me here tonight.
Thanks for coming, Joel.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Maybe just to piggyback on what Joel was saying, we have started doing weekly meetings. We call them OAC meetings, owner, architect, contractor. And George and Mike are both being representatives of the district to help support us on that. It's been great to have them on the team. And we're just working through things. One of the things we did talk about, and we'll probably bring to this committee at the next meeting, is potential for groundbreaking. So I think that's always exciting. We're going to try and do that probably towards the end of the school year, but before the students get out, it's typically what we recommend so that we can have a little bit of student participation if so desired. And it's always something that's, again, get everybody excited before they go away for the summer break, and when they come back, they'll see a lot. A lot has changed over that short time period.
Nice. Sounds great. Okay, next we have funding update.
Is that me?
Stephen?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so we are on track for borrowing. We expect to go out to the market May 1st for a $30 million note. That will cover the $8 million that was previously borrowed and will provide us $22 million in funding to get the project started. So that's all on track. Hopefully, that would begin for May 1st. So we look like we're in a good spot here for funding. We're working just as to what the length of time that 22 million will get us, and then start working on basically when our next borrowing will need to be. But we're on track for funding.
Thank you. Bid savings usage.
Sure. So kind of dovetailing on that, as we remember, we had a base bid here of 91 million. We had a budget of 106, so we have a difference of about $15.5 million. There's really kind of two main options we could choose to what to do with that savings. And there's also other options in between those. So the first option would be to reduce the project budget by the full 15.6 million and basically just continue on with the contingencies as they were initially set up and move forward. That's option one. It's not the one that we're recommending. The second option is that the MSBA will calculate their portion of that savings based off of their reimbursement rate, and they will take that portion back, and we will reduce the total project budget by that portion, and the balance, which is the district's portion, could remain within the project. It goes into your contingency funds, and it's just there. So we typically recommend leaving there as a rainy day fund. It's not that we're looking to use it, but it's if you had an unforeseen, it's already been voted on, it's already within the project, and we are still seeing a substantial reduction right off the bat, and you have that potential for that additional reduction at the end of the project. So we open to questions. If there are questions, happy to answer them. George?
George, yeah.
So if we do option two, which is MSBA takes it away, and then we have a larger contingency, you're saying?
Correct.
When that buffer is still there at the end of the project, what takes place?
So there's a couple of different things with that. First and foremost, we were talking about borrowing a minute ago. As we get towards that end, the ideal situation is we're not borrowing that money unless we need it, because if you borrow it, there's a bit of a different discussion that it needs to happen. But assuming that we haven't borrowed that, there's really two options there. One is that you just don't spend it, and it goes back to the district, which then in turn, I'll say, goes back to the taxpayers. The other option is sometimes districts vote to reappropriate that at the this is after the project's closed out, after the MSBA is closed out, and 3 steps down the road, you have the ability to go back to town meeting and have that reallocated. I think with the two towns here, it might be a little bit trickier, but it's an option.
I guess what I'm saying is, so the bottom line is at the end of it all, if there's excess,
If there's a surplus, yeah.
taxpayers don't pay and money go back to the...
Correct. Yeah. That's the most likely.
Go ahead, Dustin.
Could it be, hypothetically, down the line, could it be reallocated to another capital project like a school roof if we were going to pursue that in a couple of years?
So again, you'd have to go back to get the support of the town meeting it'd be like if you had a surplus at the end of the year and you were reallocating from one budget to another. It can be done, but it has to just follow the parliamentary procedures of the town.
Okay, we've got an elementary school roof coming up with a clawback period,
So in a
yeah.
hypothetical world, if the two-wall roof had a clawback at the 27-year mark in a few years, you might be able to then take this, which has already been appropriated for taxpayers,
Yeah.
and then at a town meeting, go forward from there.
I imagine that would be less than $15 million, or our share, $7 million, yeah.
One would hope.
Yeah, we would hope.
Who knows?
Who else? Kathleen, anything? Okay, so, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Stephen.
I'd just like to kind of say that, we've already told the taxpayer, we already told the public that what number we're at. I don't know what the MSBA lowering would be. I would certainly hope that whatever we're getting certainly the percentage-wise would stay the same, but whatever the dollar amount is, that's still tax money, but it's money that's coming to us. We owe these taxpayers. Every time anyone steps up as a public official, we owe these taxpayers their due, and I think this money should be for them, not for us. If it's holding it, okay, what's the cost of that? I'm just for the taxpayer.
So you prefer one
I
versus
prefer
two?
whatever is the least expensive way beyond this, because I'm not hearing any numbers other than the 91 million. So I just have to kind of think it in my mind. Okay, what happens with MSBA? What happens with any other parts? For 15 million being told to the taxpayer already, the residents, the families, the individuals, everyone in that community.
But they have to understand that it's not 15 million that goes back to Whitman.
Then make sure
It's
you-
only a percentage, because
Make sure you
MSBA
tell
takes
them
that.
that.
Yeah, because that must be, Steve?
The debt assessment is going to the towns as the debt is incurred and then being passed on to the taxpayers. So the savings will be realized, but the taxpayers haven't paid for this up front. Like that 91 million didn't come, all at once. It's going to come as we borrow those funds. So if we get to the end and that money is still there and we have not borrowed for those additional dollars, then the savings will be realized by the taxpayers unless something else is done on town meeting floor.
And maybe just to piggyback on that, we have a contingency already set up. What we're suggesting is that this gets into that. We may have some of that contingency left over at the end of the project as well. I think we have a pretty good history here, looking at the bids here, looking at what we've done. We've been very appropriate. We've been very conscious of the taxpayer and being, meeting the educational program, but doing it in a very cost-effective manner. And I think having AI3 and Fontaine Brothers on here is just going to continue to help us to be able to do that.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll need a motion on which one you want to do.
I'll move option 2.
Option 2. Do I have a second?
Second.
Brendan? Okay. All right, any discussion on that? Yes, just.
Would it be possible to revisit this decision prior to the second round of long-term borrowing, or when we would borrow this contingency portion?
I don't believe so, because we're going to have to redo the MSBA budget, correct?
So we did sign a project funding agreement with the MSBA, and they do an amendment. They're looking for direction from us of which one of these we want to do. Now, if we do option 2, again, there's nothing saying you can't always say that money is in contingency and we're just not going to touch it. Again, I'm not saying that we're putting in there because we already know where we're spending it, or we already think we're.
Yeah.
It's just there if you have, it's part of the original vote. You're basically going to be able to reduce the overall project budget. The MSBA reimbursement on eligible is about a 2/3 or 60%. So it's of the 15 million, it might be 8-9 million of that is MSBA. So that's already coming right off the top. That's already dropping the overall project budget down.
Yeah. All right. Okay. We'll move to the vote. All in favor of using number 2? Raise your hands, please. Okay, it's unanimous. Raise your
Unanimous. Thank
hands,
you.
Mike. You're welcome.
All right, so OPM update. So the first thing that we wanted to talk to you about on the OPM update is the material testing. So what we need to do is we typically on all construction projects have an independent third-party material testing firm, and they do things like test asphalt for the amount of asphalt, actually the bituminous material in the asphalt, the aggregate size. They test the concrete for the strength and the foundations. They might do pull tests on the waterproofing membrane to make sure that the waterproofing that has adhered properly. There's structural steel testing on welding and things like that. So there's various tests that different companies do, and what we did is we went out to 5 different companies that typically do this type of work that we work with often, and we asked them for proposals, and we got the proposals in, and we did an apples-to-apples comparison to try to make sure that we have everybody looking at it in the same package. And if you actually, in your package, you have this cover sheet, but we actually have what we call a bid tabulation behind it. So you can see we have each of the individual companies there with the cost per test, the cost, and that's adding up to the totals at the bottom, basically. So I know it's probably a little hard to see on the screen up here. It might be easier to see in your packet, but we did that analysis, and based off of that analysis, what we came back with is that while it was close between Briggs Engineering and Testing in UTS in Massachusetts, Briggs was slightly lower. In addition, Briggs is kind of a neighbor. They're out of Rockland, and oftentimes one of the things that's valuable when you're having testing is if they're close by, because as good as we all are, Fontaine will tell us, hey, we're doing concrete testing next Tuesday. We have them out there. From time to time, the concrete guy comes in last minute and says, oh, I got to do a pour tomorrow, and we need to call somebody out right away. And usually when they're a little bit closer, it's a little bit easier. So between the location and the pricing, to us, it was a clear decision that we're going to recommend Briggs Engineering and Testing be the material tester. Kathleen, I think you had a question that you had asked me early on. Just so everybody's clear, we actually have a line item within the budget for material testing for $500,000. So there might be other testing that we do down the line specific to the envelope, window testing, a thing that we call a blower door test, which is actually testing how much air leaks out of your building, things of that nature. That would be taken out of this line as well. That's why this is at 500. Again, we always try to be reasonably conservative. We don't ever want to have to say, hey, we went over the budget. So I hope we don't ever hit to the 500 total. But right now, what we're looking to do is allocate basically the first $70,000 of that with this first, $66,000 of that. By bringing Briggs Engineering and Testing on board as our third-party material tester.
Okay, any questions, Steve?
I'll just, I reviewed all of these bids, the full packet from each one of these vendors. I agree with Briggs after going through everything, so.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Okay, we need a motion for Briggs.
Make a motion to move forward with Briggs Engineering and Testing.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Kathleen. Okay, all in favor? Okay, it's unanimous.
All right, thank you very much. All right, so we'll be getting them on board, and as we need them, we'll bring them out. So Stephen, I know you've got the contract ready to go,
It's
basically.
ready to go, so I'll send it tonight.
Excellent. Construction status, so Joel kind of already hit on that a little bit. We did do a little bit of test borings, which we had a small machine out in the fields last week doing a little bit of testing, investigation basically. We did contact the school and let them know ahead of time, so that was all good. We're currently working on getting building permits together. And working on getting fencing and things of that nature, meeting with the fire department and the police department so that they're ready and they know that when they start getting phone calls about, hey, somebody's out in the field with a big machine or something like that, they know what's going on. There was a request from the building department, and we're going to have a meeting, I think, on Monday about maybe doing a third-party code analysis, a code review. It is something that we've done from time to time. We didn't get asked to do that prior, but we might do that. Again, we've got some money within the budget. It's typically under $10,000, so we're going to evaluate that, and if it's needed, we'll probably bring that to this committee at the next meeting. So just giving you a heads up that it's something that's out there. But other than that, I think we're kind of moving full steam ahead. If anybody has any questions specific to construction before I jump into the financials.
Kathleen?
I have a very practical one from concerned parents. How will the construction vehicles arrive relative to middle school opening?
So what we have is we have moratoriums in the morning and the afternoon during drop-off and pickup where we're not allowed to come and go from the site, and we've actually talked to them. That includes, Mike Carroll driving his small car, not just big trucks and stuff like that. So we have the gates closed, but you will see people coming both before and after that. We do have a start time of 7 a.m., so we're not going to have any loud equipment starting up in the morning or anything like that. Again, that once we start to see the cold weather, that tends to be a problem once, and we rectify it, and we try to make sure it doesn't happen. Try not to happen once at all, but hopefully it wouldn't happen more than once. But again, we work towards that. The other thing to keep in mind is that everything's basically coming off Corthell Ave, and we've put the gate basically as quickly as you pass the woods on the right there, the gate's immediately there. So we're trying to stay out of the campus as much as possible, get inside the fence, and keep most of that traffic inside the fence. From time to time, again, with concrete pours or things like that, there's an alternate gate in the backside, which we'll coordinate with the school if we need to do something like that.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? I went by the other day to see all the little flags up. I had to. I just had to see that we're doing stuff, just part of what I like, so. Okay.
All right.
Very good.
Before I jump into the financials, the only other thing I would mention, maybe because it's kind of related to the construction, is we actually did get a couple of different emails recently to the website, and one of them was asking, was a general contractor awarded? Which I gave that message to Elizabeth. And then another one was, when are we going to see activity on the site? And we said within I think I said within a month, trying to give us a little bit of a leeway, with April showers, sometimes it slows you down a little bit or whatever.
People are excited.
Absolutely. So
Well, they're seeing the DPW building is looking really good, so they kind of can't wait for the school. So that's nice. I'm glad they're asking that kind of question.
they are, and we're going to make sure that those get up on the website as well. So I think Elizabeth is planning on doing those tomorrow maybe, and we wanted to have the meeting tonight first to let everybody know. But
Very good.
it's
Thank you.
good. It's good that we're getting excitement on it.
Okay. Financial.
All right, so financials. So our overall project budget, we just talked about the bid savings. So you can see now that we have that $15 million reflected as uncommitted costs. We'll submit that information to the MSBA. They're probably going to ask for a letter from Jeff officially stating that, so we'll coordinate with Jeff in his office to get that over to them. And we'll bring that back to you folks as quickly as they get it to us. We'll get it back to you, and that's called the Project Funding Agreement Amendment, PFA Amendment number 1. So we'll be getting that out, and that will reduce the project. So as we scroll down to the bottom here, our current total project budget is 135. Round numbers, that's going to drop to somewhere between 125 and 128, somewhere in that range. Again, it depends on the ineligibles, basically how we break that out.
Yeah.
We currently have contingencies. We're showing here we have the hard cost contingency of 2.9, and we have the soft cost contingency, hard cost contingency of 5.3, soft cost contingency of 2.9, for a total of $8 million. And again, we'll be adding to that with the bid savings. All right. If there's no questions there, I'll go into the details of all the adjustments in different documents that we've had this month. So we have not needed to do any budget adjustments, so there's been no contingencies or money transfers from one line to another this month. So we're showing you the latest ones that we've had in gray here. Those are ones that we've all talked about previously. Moving on to our commitments. We do have a new commitment, and that is our commitment with Fontaine Brothers for $91 million. You can see below that we have a negative $823,000. I just want to remind everybody, we previously voted for the early package for Tilton Electric to purchase the switchgear and generator. And the way we defined the Fontaine contract is that value was actually included in that. So by adding it to, by having the 91 there, we took it off so that we're balancing the books there, basically. All right. And those ones were previously, we didn't previously vote to take the 800 out, but it was part of the 91 vote that we did previously. Looking at invoices this month, So we have two different invoices from AI3 for basic services and services over the basic. $25,000 for the first one and about $7,300 for the second one. We have an invoice from Colliers for our services for the month for $52,000, and then we have an invoice from Project Dog. Project Dog is the service that we use to do the online bidding, and that was for $13.95. And those were all sent over to Stephen, and assume we're in process on warrants and things of that nature. Or will be once we vote on them. How about that?
Steve. Okay. You want to start the motion?
I'd like to make a motion that we pay AI3 invoice number 0031B-2203-00 for $25,000 and invoice 0025E-2203-00 for two separate amounts, $3,332.98 and $4,060.76, which totals $7,393.74. So the grand total for the AI3 invoices is $32,393.74.
Second.
Okay, second. Okay. Any questions?
Just the one that Mary Beth usually asks. We have enough cash to cover
We do.
this, and I will ask for the following ones as well.
Yes.
All right.
Okay, all in favor? Thank you.
I'd like to move that we pay the Colliers invoice number 1031790 for $52,246.
Second.
Okay. Justin, question?
No?
No? Okay. He answered for all of it?
Yep.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, all in favor? Okay, unanimous.
And I'd like to make a third motion to pay Project Dog invoice number 22256 for $1,395.
Second.
Any questions? Okay, all in favor?
Thank you.
Unanimous, yeah. Thank you.
And just for Ronnie, I'm going to tell her Steve was one that was making the seconds there.
Oh, yes.
Steve, sorry, Stephen, I didn't say your name.
I can't do the motion. Kathleen's got it down like a science.
No worries.
I'm not breaking that rule.
All right, so looking at our cash flow, you can see that we projected about $11 million. We're about $1 million under that. But again, I think we've talked to you before. We break this into the different categories. If I scroll up to the top here on the categories, one of those categories is designer consultants, one is FF&E, we have construction and contingency. So we assume we're going to spend the full value of everything. So we started showing contingency being spent already. That's really that, and I think we're a little underbilled from where we were projecting. So we've saved you a little money from that perspective. So we're still in good shape. I will say, as we get the contractor on board, that's a number that I kind of pay close attention to, because it's usually a good indicator if we're on schedule or ahead of schedule or behind schedule. So we like to keep an eye on that, but we do try to normalize it to make sure that we're taking out the outside factors on that. But as we look at that on the graph, again, we like to show you the graph where we're in this part of the graph here where we're not moving too quickly, but you're going to start to see us creeping up pretty quickly, and we might actually maybe even creep up a little bit quicker than this. I think when we initially did this cash flow, I think we were planning on bidding it maybe a little bit later when because we had done this early on. But what we will typically do, Fontaine is working on getting us their cash flow. Rather than my best guess, we're going to put their best guess in there. So we don't typically update the cash flow too often, but when we have a major change like bringing a contractor on board, we do ask for, if we have better information, let's get better information in there.
Okay, thank you.
The next item in this package that you had is what we call BRR number 1. That's budget revision request number 1. This is an MSBA document. Basically, what this is we present to you folks every month any budget revisions we're making. And from time to time, we just have to get those revisions over to the MSBA. So what we're seeing here is what you previously voted on quite a while ago, in actuality, in most cases. But it's moving money from contingency to the OPM. This was when you executed our contract in January of 24, for example. So this is really just tying out to get the budgets that we're showing. If I go back to my summary sheet here, what this is basically doing is anything that we see in this budget authorization column, that we're moving $180,000 from this line, that's being reflected in that budget revision request. So it's really getting this column here, which is what we approved, to align with this column here. I mentioned earlier that we'll do a project funding agreement revision with the MSBA with the bid savings. They're going to want this document signed off and make these adjustments first, and then that'll be reflected in that revision as well. So just giving you a heads up that that's something that we're working with the MSBA on. It's pretty standard. We typically do these probably about once a quarter once we get going. The once a quarter is for the soft costs only, so that's everything not including the contractor. The contractor numbers, if and when we have change orders, we will submit those to the MSBA. But they actually ask us now to wait till the end of construction and do one of these BRR, budget revision requests, for all the construction items at the very end of the project. So you'll be seeing these, like I said, 3 to 4 times a year for the soft cost side, and this is just basically the first one of them. So if there's no questions, we have drafted this and sent it over to the MSBA. They've given us a thumbs up, said it looks good. So what we need to do is we're going to forward this over to Jennifer, and she'll ask Jeff to sign it as the chief executive and the superintendent, so Jeff gets to sign in 2 spots, and then Beth will be looking for you to sign as the chair of the school committee. So I don't know that we need to have a vote here, but if you want to have a vote to support the BRR, I think that would be fine.
Be a good idea. I think it'd be a good idea. Can I have-
I'll move that we authorize the BRI to be executed and signed by the appropriate personnel.
Thank you, Kathleen.
Second.
Second by Steve.
Hi, Steve.
Okay,
I'm the CEO's bodyguard.
all in favor? Okay, unanimous.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Last but not least, just looking at our overall schedule. So now that we have the contractor on board, they're working on a schedule, but what we've highlighted here in general is like the next 3 months, the next quarter or so. And if I can zoom in to show you where that is, we just did the notice to proceed to the contractor, so they're getting ready. Construction starting, you can see that's the main activity here, the next 2 years worth of construction. Rest assured, when we get a schedule from them, Joel, your schedule for that one line will probably be 1,000 lines or 1,500 lines, something like that, worth of detail with all the different parts and pieces, from foundations to steel, to drywall, to painting the drywall when it's done. But we do have a couple of the big milestones in there, like the substantial completion, receiving temporary certificate of occupancy, things of that nature. As I move down to the end of this section, we have FF&E, so that's furniture, fixtures, and equipment. So that's all the stuff that the contractor's not supplying. You may have heard me say it before. I always say that when people say, what is furniture, fixtures, and equipment? I said, if I was a giant and I picked the building up and I shook it, anything that fell out that isn't people is furniture, fixtures, and equipment. So that's basically what it is. It's the chairs and desks, it's filing cabinets. There's technology parts that are involved with that as well. The MSBA actually has us break it out into 2 separate parts, and I'm leading this up because we'll be talking about that in just a minute. So we are getting to that time period where we're looking to start doing what we call a kickoff, and we start having discussions, more earnest discussions. So the design team to date shows furniture in the classrooms. They show the number of desks. They show what teacher's desk is. But now we actually have to decide, is that teacher's desk, a metal desk? Is it a wood desk? Like all the different varieties. Is it 5 foot long? Is it 6 foot long? Is it straight? Is it an L shape? What kind of chairs do we want to use? So there's a long process to go through that. And part of that is matching it to a budget, but part of that is actually bringing samples out for people to look at and things like that. So we like to get going on that earlier so that we have time to think about it and make sure that we have plenty of time to do it. So we certainly have plenty of time to do that, but we're going to be starting to bring that forth at the next couple of meetings, probably starting to get some activity here, maybe some of the teachers and stuff like that. Julie, do we think we're going to try and do that before school gets out?
Yeah, we have already started the review process with the administrators and the staff primarily so that we can get those samples in at the end of the school year. And then it will be a little bit of like a mini bid version of the project where all of the suppliers will then bid on the furniture package. And so having the summer to then execute those POs and set up that bid so that we can have a firm direction on what will be selected, and then by this time next year have all of the furniture pretty much ready to be ordered.
Exciting time. We'll be seeing that. And as the contractor gets involved, we've been talking already. I mentioned those OAC meetings. One of the things that they've talked about extensively with the design team already is getting samples in of all the finishes, like all the wood and the stone and stuff like that, so that we can start sharing that with everybody. So exciting times.
That's for sure.
All right.
That's for sure.
All right. So I think that's everything I had through financial review and schedule. Go ahead, Stephen.
Yes, Steve.
So just back to financials quickly and to Justin's question, of the $9.9 million that has been spent to date, we've submitted $8.7 million of eligible expenses to the MSBA and have received about $5.2 million in reimbursement already. So with the $8 million that was borrowed and the $5.5 that we've received in reimbursement, we're still well within line to hopefully get us to May.
So that's what, $80,000?
Correct. So, thank you.
All right. Before I jump to FF&E update, the last item we had here on the OPM update is DCAM designer evaluation. So DCAM is the state agency that provides oversight for their general construction. As part of our obligation, our collective obligation, when we have a designer on board, we have to submit an evaluation of them basically at the end of schematic design, which we did about a year ago, at the end of full design, which is now, and then at the end of the construction. Similarly, we do a 50% construction review on the contractor and the filed subbidders, and then we do a final review with them at the end of that. So we did go through it, and it is in your package. I'm happy to go through in detail if anybody wants. Bottom line is we basically, if you have a 2, you're doing your job, or 2 to 3, you're doing your job. 4 is exceeding expectations, and we pretty much scored 4 across the board. I think we gave 1 3 just because we said nobody's perfect, but we thought AI3 has been doing a fabulous job here. So that's what we submitted to date, and if there's any questions, we're happy to answer them. But really, I think Julie and her team and Troy and everybody have been doing a great job, and we just hope they keep up doing what they've been doing.
Anything? Anybody? Does this get signed by anyone? 'Cause I was-
So I think I don't know if it's hit Jeff's inbox or not yet, but I think if it hasn't, it will be shortly. So what happens is we start it, we fill it out, but we did review it with Jeff and George. We had some discussions relatively quick because there wasn't a lot of angst, not a lot of, like, typically if there's a bad score, we provide comments and commentary why, but there really isn't a bad score here. We hit submit, it goes to them, it goes to Jeff, Jeff will hit submit, and then we'll go to AI3, they have to acknowledge it as well, and then it gets filed.
Okay.
All right, FF&E update. I am going to pull up one new screen here. So we did meet with Jeff and George on this last week, and we wanted to bring to their attention, and sorry, I'm just going to try and make this so it fits a little better, if you could bear with me a second. There we go. So we have FF&E here. We have one line for the furnitures, fixtures, and equipment, and a second line for technology. And if you look at the formula in here, it's our enrollment of 675 students at $1,800 a student. And if I cheat over here just a little bit, you can see that we have $405,000 of that total, which is deemed ineligible. So you may remember, I think it was in August of '23 when we were setting the final budgets before we went out to the vote. We had talked about that the MSBA caps FF&E and technology each at $1,200 per student. Now, I've been doing MSBA work for 15 years, and 15 years ago, it was $1,200 a student. So it literally has not changed in that time. You may remember, I think I told you, up until COVID, I was still, for the most part, able to do most of the FF&E within that 1,200 range. The technology I wasn't able to at that point. And then when COVID came and material prices spiked, it really became problematic. So when we were going back and forth trying to finalize the total project budget, and we were talking about contingencies and things like that, at that time we had actually talked about 2,400 is probably the right number. And we were, $2,400 or even $2,500. And we had discussions, I think, right in this room, and we settled that we were going to carry it at 1,800, but we knew we had some contingencies available, and we would kind of see how we've gone. So now we're a year plus past that. We can continue to monitor the markets and look at what we're looking for FF&E and technology. And while we could keep to the $1,200, which again is $1,800 a student, we feel that it's going to be difficult and it's probably going to affect that educational program to do that. So what we're proposing to do is ask for your permission to raise that level. I think we'd gone back and forth. Did we end up at 2,300, was it? So we're recommending 2,300, which is just a little bit less than the double the number from the MSBA. It doesn't mean that we have to spend that, but we're thinking based off of our experience, based off of the furniture and the technology that we believe a building of this age needs and of this size needs, that's where we're thinking the number should be. We're going to be coming back to you with the FF&E designs and with pricing and things like that. So just because we're increasing or asking you to increase the budget doesn't mean we're authorizing us to spend that. We're going to come back to you later to officially ask for the authorization to spend it. But we just felt it was something we talked about a while ago. We had, again, back then we had said if we need to go above that, it would be within the contingency. And we do feel that it's probably the proper way to go. If the direction is no, keep it where it's at, we can certainly try to design to that. But there could be challenges to the educational program.
Any questions? Yeah, George?
I'm just saying, when we met, things, if you look at the technology budget, for example, if we look at if the giant is shaping the building and what shakes out, all of these things then end up in the general budget. If we cannot go through and increase the FF&E here. So our decision, and what we were talking about was, if we have a curriculum that's based on technology, which doesn't seem to be changing it anytime soon, then if we have it already as a contingency, then my approach, our approach, Jeff's approach would be to increase that so that we can give the students in the newest building the best that they can do. And then in the end, though, it doesn't help the general ed budget because you're taking the school off of the general fund, basically, in order to build the technology that's needed for that time.
Okay. Any more questions? Julie?
I might just clarify too, you might point it out the metric that's used to come up with that estimated budget of, your enrollment times 1,800 or times 2,300. But that FF&E budget also includes custodial equipment, recycling bins, and it's things beyond just what the student is independently using. So that if that just helps kind of frame.
Yeah.
How, when you think of what slice is actually going to something the students use every day, it seems small.
And it even includes potentially lawnmowers or snow removal equipment. If oftentimes the town might plow the street, but you might be responsible for the sidewalks, for example.
Serving spoons and the, it's all
Yeah. They're not bringing what's there over to the new building. No. No. Okay. Any other questions on? Okay, I guess we'll talk about the next meeting date.
So are we comfortable moving
Oh,
that budget?
Yeah, we need to vote on that, I'm sorry.
It would probably be good to have a vote, yeah.
Yeah, I would think it'd be a good idea.
I get a question to this. So if we're going to do the 2,300 a student, let's say over the next year or two, we find it still needs to be more than that, whatever. You just go back to contingency at that point.
Yeah, so let me just say, whether it's above or below that number, we're going to come back to. So what it really is Julie and her team need to know what's the goal line? What are they designing towards? And for example, if we decided we wanted to keep it lower, we might take a stronger look at the existing furniture. What can we reuse? Things like that. Which I don't think we really want to do that. So that's where. So we're just trying to. What is the goal line? And now we're going to try for that goal line. And to your point, if we go over that, if we're going to bring that to you, and we're going to either make the case that, hey, it's still needed, it's really needed, this is, if we don't do this, this is the impact to us, or maybe we do a good job like we've done to date, and we come in a little bit under that budget, and that money can come back out. I never like to move it in and then take it back out, but I think giving them a clear goal line to shoot for is important.
Yes, Stephen?
What's the 675 grand? Is that what we're looking at?
Let me.
Because we're essentially asking to approve out of contingency, correct?
Yeah, so.
It was just $500 more on 2 lines, right?
Yeah, exactly.
675.
I was just doing the math just so I can. No, I have. So it was going to go up. Yeah, $500 from 1,800 to 23. So 500 times 675 times 2.
All right, so yeah.
Yeah.
So 1,000 times 675.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, you're right. I think when I did the math there, I added the plus 2. I didn't put the parentheses in. So.
Perfect.
Yeah, 675 exactly.
Anything else? All right, so we have a motion then?
So I'll move to approve the, changing the FF&E amount to 2,300.
Second. Brandon.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, unanimous again.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So again, more to come on that. We'll start be seeing design updates and things like
Okay.
that. Next meeting, I think we weren't rushing to get to one, but I think we were looking at the end of next month. We knew April vacation is the week before that, so I think we normally would have done a week before, but we didn't want to do it over the vacation week, so.
Okay. How's that look for everybody? You okay with that? Okay, so April 29th at 4:30 here will be our next meeting. Okay? Okay, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I make the motion to adjourn.
Second, Steve.
Steven seconds. All in favor? Okay, unanimous. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.